Hi, Sam Schifman here. The other day I was flying home from Vantiq's headquarters in California, and I just happened to look a couple of seats ahead and saw that somebody was watching a documentary on Bob Dylan. They had the subtitles on, and I could see that he was singing When the Times They Are A-Changing. I just couldn't help but think, man, you have no idea. Today, the times are changing so rapidly, and at the forefront of that is artificial intelligence, or AI. I wanted to take a moment today to talk about why Vantiq is the platform that can enable that AI future. When we talk about AI, we tend to break it down into two categories. We talk about predictive AI. This is when I train a model to make a prediction, such as I'm going to give it a picture and I want it to predict whether that picture contains a cat or not. More recently, we've talked about generative AI. Generative AI is when I ask a question and it gives some kind of response. Under the covers, generative AI is really predictive AI. It's really predicting the next best token. What's interesting is that we can actually use that, though, to simulate reasoning, which is interesting. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about how Vantiq can leverage either type of AI to really help out. To talk about this, I want to talk a little bit about sepsis. You may know that sepsis is an infection of the blood. What you may not know is it actually kills millions of people worldwide every year. And a lot of effort has gone into building predictive models that can assess whether a patient is at risk of developing sepsis. And my question is, so what? We can predict that the patient might be about to develop sepsis, but what if they're already being treated for sepsis? And then what do we do next? Okay, so if they've already been treated, we really don't want to bother the clinician again, right? But if they're not being treated, we really need to enrich that event with more clinical information so that when it gets to the clinician, they can take appropriate action. This is what Vantiq is all about. Vantiq is about the so what of bringing context to the event of the prediction. And then it's about the what next, which is enriching that event and supplying it to either a clinician or, in other circumstances where it might be appropriate, taking automated action based on that event. Now, as I said, we're not limited to predictive AI. We can also use generative AI, and we could take that same data, combine it together, and give it to a generative AI so that the results that are given to the clinician downstream are much more actionable. But this is really just the tip of the iceberg. You may have heard of agentic AI or agents, and Vantiq has all of the elements to build really effective agents. What is an agent? Well, an agent starts with an LLM at its center, and the LLM has the information that it was trained on, which is its internal memory. Around that, you need to supply it with a prompt. The prompt has three elements to it. It has a system prompt, which are the instructions to the LLM. It has some general context, which comes from external memory. We often supply that using retrieval augmented generation or other techniques. They supply the LLM with data that may not have been available when it was trained. And then it has the current context, or the conversation that is happening either with the user or with another agent. Finally, it has a set of tools that allow it to take action. As I said, Vantiq allows you to build agents very easily, but you can also make networks of agents, which is really where the power comes in. When you have a bunch of agents, they're able to work together on your behalf. Now, Vantiq's event-based platform is perfect to empower this kind of collaboration between people and agents and agents and agents in order to have really positive outcomes. So really, in the end, Vantiq is the platform for creating and operating intelligent systems, or I like to say adaptive automation, on top of AI, now and into the future. Thank you. Love to continue the conversation. Please feel free to reach out, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.